Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Beautiful day. Beautiful day in downtown Toronto. Um, I'm in my office. In my office doing the work. Let me show y'all what. Let me show y'all what outside looks like. It's beautiful in downtown Toronto. See my Guyana flag there? Oops. Let me see. Did I do something with this live? Nope. This is what downtown Toronto looks like. See the CN Tower there, and all the high-rise buildings. So you know that I don't work out of a sweatshop. Well, I work out of a sweatshop, but a high-rise sweatshop with Canadian flag there. And let's see. See the CN Tower? Can you see the CN Tower? You know you're in Toronto when you can see the CN Tower. CN Tower. CN Tower. All the way back is the lake. All the RBC Tower, TD Tower, BMO Tower, and so on. Anyway, so I went on Kite Show Radio last Friday, and created a whole storm by recapitulating my experience as an election observer. So, they're calling me all kind of names now. They're calling me a foreigner, a meddler, all kind of stuff. They're calling me. Even one of my own cousins cursed me out today on Facebook. One of my own cousins, Kenrick Liverpool, cursed me out on Facebook. Not even realizing he's my cousin. But I can't blame. Oops, what happened? I can't blame Kenrick. I wore a nice yellow today. A nice yellow with accents of blue. But it has no political leanings. It's a beautiful color. The thing about it is, look, the situation in Guyana is pretty tense. I appreciate that it's tense, but it's our political leaders that make it tense, right? It's our political leaders that make the situation in Guyana tense because, we've all got to be true to ourselves, right? And you can like this live, you can share it, you can put it in a viewing party because I'm going to talk, I'm going to have stuff to say. Everything I said with respect to what took place in Guyana was backed up by videos or other forms of evidence, right? Everything I said. So you've got to be delusional, or you've got to be in a reality outside of what has taken place or is taking place to not know what took place. Right? What took place at GCOM. As an observer, I was bound by certain parameters. But the parameters were even deeper for people who worked at GCOM, right? GCOM is an independent constitutional agency, right? Independent constitutional agency. And by being an independent constitutional agency, their role are clearly defined. They're responsible for the conduct of the election. And not only are they responsible for the conduct of the election, but they're supposed to be independent, right? They're supposed to be impartial. They're supposed to be fair, and they're supposed to be transparent, because public confidence in our electoral processes comes from all those things: being fair, being impartial, being independent in terms of how you administer as a commission, and in terms of the decision making that you undertake, right? You know, and that's why we have the Representation of the People's Act, Chapter 103. You know, so I understand that people are upset, but we clothed Mr. Lowenfield and we clothed Mr. Bengo. We clothed them with certain powers, right? We clothed them with certain powers, and those powers were not in any private interest. Those powers were for the public's interest, right? And that's why a lot of money was spent for this election. You know, that's why we had the former chief electoral officer from Canada, the former chief electoral officer from India, and the former electoral officer from Ghana in Guyana. That's why we had foreign observers and local observers. That's why we had a full complement of staff at the Guyana Electoral Commission, so that, you know, the elections that took place on March 2nd would have been credible and would have been fair, right? I mean, the only people that can doubt what I said took place on March 4th and March 5th are people that are living in a bubble, people that cannot accept the reality, people that can't accept objective evidence. I mean, the Kaituur News did a story today, and somebody screenshotted it and sent it to me. I'm going to show you all the story. I mean, I have nothing to do with the headline, but the words otherwise are minds. This is the Kaituur News story. Well, the one on that's the story. And like I said, you know, the words are minds because I was there, right? I mean, I appreciate that the truth sometimes hurts. I appreciate that, you know, people expect that because I'm aligned with the PNC. I shouldn't have fairness. That's why it's difficult. It would be difficult for me to be a judge in Guyana. I feel badly for the judges that are there because, quite frankly, I couldn't, you know, if you want people to be fair, you want people to be neutral, you want people to be impartial, you have to understand and appreciate that people will call it for what it is. People have to tell you exactly what they see, what they hear, what they smell. You know, it's not a case. It's not a case like you know, some people feel that to be part of the crew, you have to see no evil, hear no evil, Speak no evil. And I have a police friend in Guyana. This is what is on his Facebook page. This is the mantra of the three monkeys. See no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. I don't subscribe to those rules at all. But I show this to you because, this is exactly how you see what they say? This is exactly what they want. You see nothing, you hear nothing, and you say nothing. So you see no evil, you hear no evil, you speak no evil. So, or you see nothing, you hear nothing, and you say nothing. That is the mantra. That is the mantra. That's what people want. But you're not gonna get that from me. You're not gonna get that from me. When I'm on my dying bed, I'm not gonna be regretting. I'm not gonna be regretting my silence. A lot of people do that when they're dying. They start regretting what they could have done and how they could have done it. And I've seen enough of that to know that ain't gonna be me. That's not gonna be me. So when I went at GCOM and I saw the stuff that was going on, I didn't stay silent. And that's why people have videos that they could benefit from right now, Like when I spoke about the bomb threat and the reaction to the bomb threat where the diplomats and the observers refused to leave after the Karen Cummins meeting, I videotaped it so that there was some objective evidence for people to look at. When I spoke about the meeting with Karen Cummins, I videotaped it as well so that people have something to compare my words. I understand that because of all the videotaping and so on, I'm going to be called as a witness. I expect that if the Guyana Election Commission stuff goes to either civil litigation or criminal litigation, because I know some charges were laid against Lowenfield, it's expected that I'll be called as a witness, right? But that's fine, because it's important that you speak as you see it. You shouldn't allow your political sympathies to undermine your neutrality or your independence. Anyone have any questions for me? So when I spoke about Karen Cummins stuff, there was video evidence to prove it. When I spoke about Mingo, there was evidence. When I spoke about Lowenfield, there was ample evidence. I mean, even people that were sympathizers, even people that were sympathetic to the APNU AFC found, even people that were sympathetic to the APNU AFC found Lowenfield's conduct to be quite unacceptable, right? Because when I posted the Lowenfield video, there were harsh comments from people who were supportive of the APNU AFC to Lowenfield. Tonight President Granger is going to be back on Ben's Cup Radio. He's been on he's now a regular feature on Ben's Cup Radio, even though he has refused to hold formal press conferences. So here's a president that refused to hold formal press conferences with the media in Guyana, right? Refused to hold press conferences with the media in Guyana, but he's on Ben's Cup Radio for an hour and a half, however long he feels like chatting with Mark Benscott. I don't know how that's acceptable. Like your stewardship, your excellencies, to the people of Guyana, you just don't show up on one radio station because it was your prerogative. You're a public officer right now. You're the chief public officer in the land. You don't get to stop the media and to say, well, I will only speak to Mark Benscott, which is what you're doing. You should call up, form up press conferences, and make yourself available to all of the media without handlers. Just you have no handlers at Benscott Radio. You have no handlers at Benscott Radio, so you should apply the same. You should apply the same mantra when you're speaking to when you're dealing with other media. Make yourself available and answer the questions that's asked. When I was on Gildari and Yoke Mahadio's show on Friday, they were allowed to ask me anything, and I answered all their questions. I didn't try to dodge the questions. I answered the questions and I spoke truthfully because, of course, whatever I told them is going to be used. But let's get to this core issue with I'm a foreigner, right? Let's get to this issue of foreignness, right? I'm a Guyanese like any other Guyanese. So please stop calling me a foreigner. I'm Guyanese, alright? I need not born in Guyana to be a Guyanese. The Constitution says as long as one of your parents was born in Guyana, you're Guyanese. Right? And like I said, my great-grandparents, my grandparents, all four of them. My father was buried in Guyana. Lots of my uncles and aunts were buried in Guyana. I still have lots of families living in Guyana. Lots. I have aunts living in Guyana. I have cousins living in Guyana. I have my nephews and nieces that live in Guyana. Lots of family members living in Guyana. So, notwithstanding the fact that I'm in my adopted home, Canada is my adopted home, that don't take away from the fact that I'm a Guyanese, right? But that don't take away from the fact that I'm a Guyanese. So, you're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to ascribe any foreign citizenship to me because you don't like my thoughts. You don't like the fact that I say it as it is, So you don't get to ascribe citizenship to me. Yes, I was born in England, so I have claim to English citizenship. Yes, I'm a naturalized Canadian because I have Canadian citizenship because I've lived here. I've not lived here for most of my life. I lived here as a child. When I was 7 to 8 years old, I lived here. And then I permanently returned here at 20. So, 1920. So, I've been here for 33 years. So, I've lived here most of my life, but that don't mean that I lose my Guyanese-ness. I know more about Guyana than most people that live there. Because I keep myself in the know on current affairs. Plus, I've been the lawyer on most of the major commissions of inquiries in Guyana. There's no lawyer that has sat on more commissions of inquiries within the last 8 years than I have. Representing the state, representing all kind of interests, political parties, private interests. Me? When I was given President Granger legal advice, or when President Granger was sending for me to represent Guyana's interests, I represented Guyana's interests 3 times. Right? when there was a big case of the CCJ, McEwen versus the Attorney General of Guyana, I was sent for from Canada to appear in the CCJ. When Sharon Das voted yes, yes, yes. So when Sharon voted yes, the expert affidavit on Canadian immigration and citizenship law was written by me. There was no other expert in the courts on that case but me. And it was Basil, Uncle Basil, that asked me to do it. Well, he didn't ask me directly, but he called me and told me, hey, Selwyn, some people are going to be calling you. Right? So he called me and let me know people will call me. And people did call me. The lawyers for the farmer, Compton Reed, did call me, and I was able to give them an expert affidavit that was cited with approval, including the case of McAteer, cited by approval by the Supreme Court. Right? And of course, I had a big burden to shoulder. You know, imagine there's only one person that carried that burden. Right? When the Walter Rodney Commission of Inquiry submissions had to be made, right? When the Walter Rodney Commission of Inquiry was ended and submissions had to be made, think about it. They didn't call James Bond. They didn't call Royston Ford. They didn't call any of them Rex McKay. None of the PNC lawyers that live in Guyana, they called. None of them. They called Selwyn from Canada. Right? Selwyn from Canada had to represent the interests of the state during the Burnham era, right? That led to Walter Rodney's killing. So I had to understand the history, and they were quite confident that I understood the history, I understood the background, I understood the politics to be able to make submissions on behalf of Guyana and to make submissions on behalf of the state and Burnham's interests. So I was the only lawyer that represented the PNC in closing arguments at the Walter Rodney Commission of Inquiry. I had to deal with the 4 theories of Walter Rodney's death. You know, and I had to answer probing questions. You know, so you know, my biography of work in Guyana for the past 8 years has been formidable. It's been more intense than the lawyers that are local there in terms of public interest matters. I could have been in all these election cases, but I decided I don't want to get involved in the election cases at this point, so I haven't been involved in the election cases. But if I wanted to be involved in the election cases, I would have been involved. And the thing about the cases is you know, I was thinking about it today. No one could say, well, I paid Selwyn airfare or hotel. Every time I went to Guyana, whether it's for the Linden Commission of Inquiry, the Walter Rodney Commission of Inquiry, the inquiry into the assassination plot against the president, the McEwen case at the CCJ, all those cases, I paid my own airfare, I paid my own hotel, I paid my own expenses. You know, so even though the government of Guyana asked me to be there, I didn't ask them for a cent. Everything was done pro bono. They haven't paid me a cent for any of those cases. I mean, quite frankly, they didn't even offer me a bottle of water. You know, when I came as an election observer, it's the same thing. Nobody can say, well, Selwyn was paid off. If you say Selwyn was paid off, you're a fool. So nobody can compromise me. I paid my own way. Nobody has secrets for me. The PPP has no secrets for me. The APNU has no secrets. The AFC has no secrets. I haven't gone with a begging bowl for any political parties, and and that's why my integrity is intact. The PPP didn't attack my integrity. They didn't attack my credibility because there's nothing to attack me on. They've seen how I work in Guyana, and I've been fair. Even when I was doing the assassination plot, I was as scrupulous and fair as I could to Selwyn Pieters. And if Selwyn Pieters had focused on my questions, he wouldn't have run into the trouble that he ran into. Because I was being as fair as I could to him. In the same manner that I was fair to Patrick Todd when I did the Linden Commission of Inquiry. Patrick Todd had the opportunity to answer any and all questions that were asked of him. I didn't try to ambush him. So I asked him very direct questions, very difficult questions, favorable questions. Same with Selwyn Pieters at the inquiry into the assassination plot, but Selwyn wanted to play games, and so Selwyn, you can't play games with a lawyer, especially a lawyer who is killed at cross-examination. You'll get tied up. So I have the respect. I have the respect across the board. I mean, before I went to Kaitoa Radio, on Friday night, very, very senior people from the PNC reached out to me. Very, very senior people from the People's National Congress that are part of their executive committee reached out to me simply because they know who Selwyn is. And I guess in a nice way they wanted to remind me, you're one of us. So don't talk to ting them. But you gotta speak the truth. You can't, it don't matter where your loyalties lie. You gotta say it as it is, and you gotta say it frankly and fearlessly. So my recollection of the elections was based on what I saw. We were in Berbice. Hi Kenrick, Liverpool, how are you? Kenrick, Liverpool told me off today, called me foreigner and all kind of stuff. And Kenrick, and I didn't even blame Kenrick for it. Kenrick and I are related. Kenrick came from, my mother is a noble, and my grandfather is a noble, and Kenrick came from the same bloodline as I am, and Kenrick called me a foreigner. I had to forgive Kenrick. I had to laugh at Kenrick, number one, and number two, forgive Kenrick, because Kenrick didn't know that we're related. So one of the other family members went on Kenrick's page and said, well, I appreciate the diversity of views amongst family members. I don't know why someone is knocking at my door. Let me see who is interrupting my life right now. Hang on. What's right? just close it back at me. Thank you. And someone, it was the cleaners, so it was all good. Anyway, Raymond picks me up. One of my childhood classmates is on my life, Vivian Williams, brilliant lawyer in New York City. Vivian Williams was one of my best friends when I was growing up as a child. We went to high school together. We were in the same class. We were the youngest in our class. Vivian was the youngest, and then I was right behind Vivian. We were friends throughout high school. We used to spend a lot of time hanging out when I wasn't working as a child. And who would have known that Vivian would have been a lawyer and I would have been a lawyer too? We never had those conversations as children. And so, I'm really proud of Vivian. And Vivian has an interest in Guyana. He writes some very insightful articles. Somebody told me to increase the volume because they can't hear me. Let me see what's going on this. Yeah, you know why the volume seems different. I never did a live before from my laptop. I'm not doing the live from my. I normally do the live from my phone. So I normally just do it from my phone, but today I just sort of I'm doing it from the laptop. So if I'm coming across very low, it's probably because of the phone. Everybody's saying that the volume is very low. Let me see something. Patrick said it's much better now. I mean, let me talk about the court case. When you listen, the court sat for 7 hours. So the court proceedings went for 7 hours last week. And the questions that the judges asked were very insightful. Right? The questions the judges asked were very insightful. And because of the insightfulness of the questions, what we know is that we know that the court will assume jurisdiction. That you don't need a rocket scientist. You don't need to be a rocket scientist to see where the court is going with this case. And so I made a few assumptions. I made an assumption based on the arguments that I heard that the court will assume jurisdiction, that not only will the court assume jurisdiction, but that the court will find that the Court of Appeal acted beyond its jurisdiction and quash the decision or vacate the decision, however you want to say it. The court will also set aside Mingo's report that he relied on that order to produce, and the court will give directions so that the will of the people are respected. So we expect some things to happen, big things to happen on Wednesday. So today's Monday. Today's Monday, and it's gonna be Wednesday that the decision comes down. 2 days. I don't know how to make. Are you able to increase the volume? My goodness, I don't know. I think what I'm gonna do is end this live and come on and use another device, because I don't know how to. I don't know how to do that on this computer. But I think this is what my thoughts are. Whether you're PNC, whether you are PPP, regardless of which political party you belong to, Guyana belongs to all of us, right? All of us has some stake in Guyana and its development, right? It's too bad that they didn't find the oil when we were growing up as kids. We probably would have been much better off and much richer. But there's the oil now, there's the oil money, and there's a lot of prospects. There are a lot of prospects for Guyana's development. I mean, we have to be true to ourselves. I appreciate that some persons who are black, right? I appreciate that some persons who are black are fearful of a PPP government, right? I also appreciate that some persons who are within the PPP or People's Progressive Party has racist views towards black people that are repugnant. But what I know for sure is that Orphan Ali will be a president for all Guyanese. He's made that commitment, and we've got to hold him to that commitment. I mean, the APNU AFC won the elections in 2015, won fair and square in 2015. They've lost the elections in 2020, right? They've lost this election. The numbers don't lie, right? We knew that the APNU AFC lost its elections because of the numbers that came in, because of the statement of polls that were there, right? I was right there. I was getting all the information, and it's all on my computer, all the statement of polls. And the statement of recounts confirmed that, right? The statement of recounts confirmed that the APNU AFC has lost the election by more than 15,000 votes. I mean, they've come up with all kind of excuses and shenanigans to deny the will of the people. And, you know, the president's son-in-law, Mr. Gaskin, said it, right? You know, he said that the APNU AFC has no intention of giving up power. And that's true. They have no intention of giving up power. But the thing about it is, either we're in a democracy or we're in a dictatorship, right? I mean, Yvette Graham tells me what I should do, right? Yvette Graham tells me she missed out a word. She meant to say, why don't you go? And then she said, F ... yourself. You see, that's the thing that I'm talking about. Yvette Graham, you can't accept the reality. I mean, you don't want to accept the truth. You don't want to come to terms with the fact that the APNU AFC had 5 years to continue to build on the goodwill of the people that put them in office, and they squandered it. Right? The APNU AFC squandered that goodwill of the people. I mean, and I can give you examples of how they squandered the goodwill of the people, right? I mean, you have 90, how do you lose 90,000 votes? Right? How do you lose 90,000 votes in the local government election in 2018? And that not tell you something, that the writing is on the wall, that people aren't happy. 90,000 persons stayed home in Georgetown, didn't go out to vote in the local government election. So the PPP got more votes, right? The PPP got more votes in, picked up, their numbers went up in Georgetown, which is a PNC stronghold, right? their numbers went up. That should have said something. You foot soldiers don't realize that, and the PPP knew it. During the 5 years that the APNU AFC was in power, there was no unity. There was no unity within the APNU AFC. There were all kind of camps. So Basel was rivals with Joe Harmon. Basel, and I say Basel, these guys, you foot soldiers had no relationship. You foot soldiers are telling me to go F myself and all this sort of stuff. And none of y'all had the relationship that I had with these people. Basil Williams and I were close friends. His son worked in my office. I trained his son to be a lawyer in Canada. You're talking like you know something. You're talking like you know something and you know nothing, Yvette Graham. My family is completely PNC. My family members worked for the PNC during this election. Viola Burnham is my sister's godmother. My father was the first general secretary of the PNC. My father was close to Forbes Burnham and close to Walter Rodney. I can say what I have to say about the PNC in the same way as Burnham children can speak. Because my family have a stake in that party. Right? So, you know, you're trying to, I laugh at people that are trying to tell me off because none of y'all are connected or were connected to the hierarchy like I was. You know, when I went to the presidential secretariat of Vicinian Road, they used to have all kind of people sitting down on benches waiting. They couldn't have me sitting down on benches waiting. I let them know, you send for me from Canada to work here, to do stuff. You're not gonna waste my time having me sitting on benches. If you schedule a meeting for me at 4 o'clock, you'll be there at 4 o'clock to meet with me. And you're damn right that they were there. Somebody say show the donation receipts. No, I'm not gonna show. The donation receipts were pale in comparison. The donation receipts were pale in comparison to the pro bono work I did for them. The pro bono work that I did for them would have been in the hundreds of thousands of Canadian dollars if I was to bill them in real time. So I'm not going to show donation receipts. I'm just going to let people that are uninformed course and carry on because they feel that it will get to me. I mean, I even had, she's gone. She's no longer here. I even had people telling me they're going to blow me up. I even had people telling me they were going to blow me up. They wanted me to get blown up like Walter Rodney. Like if I'm foolish like Walter Rodney. Walter Rodney was a fool to trust Gregory Smith. He's a brilliant man, but he was foolish to trust Gregory Smith. I don't trust anyone when I go to Guyana. I don't trust anyone when I go to Guyana. And nobody isn't giving me anything to hold that's going to blow up on me. You know, you're going to have to shoot. But make sure that I don't get time. You know? But that's the thing that we have. We have all these people that most of them are empty vessels. And I say empty vessels because they say a lot, but they contributed nothing. They contributed little to nothing. This is what Han Gaskin said. Right? This is what Han Gaskin said. Han Gaskin said that, you know, the APNU AFC has no intention of giving up power. He would know that. He would know that. But they have to give up power if they lost this election. You know, this is not long time. And no one is going to allow Guyana to get into the state that Venezuela is. No one is going to allow Guyana to be a next Venezuela in the region. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that the army the members of the Guyana Defense Force may be mostly politically aligned to the PNC. Doesn't matter. The same thing doesn't matter with the police. They've got to respect the Constitution. Guyana is not Venezuela. Guyana is a member of CARICOM. Guyana is a member of the Organization of American States. Guyana is a member of the Commonwealth. Venezuela is not a member of any of those organizations. Right? Guyana has membership in all those organizations, and those organizations and Guyanese that have a stake in democracy and good governance and good democratic processes are not going to allow them to remain in power if they lost the election. If they are in power and they lost and they must get out of office, they must ensure that an orderly process of transition takes place. No one benefits for Guyana to be in this electoral uncertainty for 4 months. Absolutely no one benefits. Well, not no one, except the people who are recently there have been a lot of state land being gazetted and lots of contracts being given out. Those are the only people that benefit. The police officers don't benefit. The prison officers don't benefit. The members of the Guyana Defense Force do not benefit. The public servants do not benefit. And most certainly the ordinary people do not benefit. We are in a pandemic situation right now. Right? We're in a pandemic situation where a lot of businesses that are not essential are closed. And that means a lot of people who make the minimum of earnings, who make the minimum wage, are out of work. A lot of people in Guyana are being furloughed. And I know because some of them are in contact with me asking me for donations. A lot of young people with young children are out of work there because they're furloughed from their jobs. Because the revenue has dropped because of all these businesses that are closed, all the airports that are closed. You know, foreigners aren't coming in. Tourists aren't coming in. Business ventures aren't coming in because of the electoral uncertainty. So you have a lot of young people that are losing their jobs, right? And then you have this electoral uncertainty. You know, and it's true, Mr. Ram, that the diehard supporters on both sides are always used as pawns. They are. The problem about using them as pawns is that you're setting up as a powder keg that can explode. You're setting up a powder keg that can explode because, I mean, the pawns on the PPP side will believe that they're right, and the pawns on the PNC side will believe that they're right, and the other side is wrong.
And so you have the battle of the wills going on, and it's almost like you have a friendly fire situation. It's almost like you have a friendly fire situation because of what the politicians set up and engender. Like, I mean, no one is supposed to give their supporters false expectations. So you're not supposed to tell your supporters that you won an election when the numbers are clear that you lost. I mean, I was very, very surprised. I was very, very surprised. That's why you have to record everything. I was very surprised when I heard what Comrade Ramzitan said recently in an interview on a television station in Trinidad. When his voice was clear. His voice was clear to his supporters. Not his supporters, but to the public servants, that he's leaving the ministry because they've lost the elections. Yet he goes on another radio station, a television station, and lies about it. And he's a lawyer. He's a lawyer. He goes and tells a completely different narrative that contradicts what he said previously. Like, how do you maintain credibility when you do something like that, Prakash? Uncle Prak? I mean, Comrade Ramzitan is my boy, man. I like Comrade. I like Prak. But I'm disappointed that he did that. Like, it better you keep quiet than to lie. There's no reason to lie. Keep quiet. Don't lie. And that's what Comrade Ramzitan did. Comrade Ramzitan went and lied on that television station when he said, oh, you know, I met with my senior directorates. I met with my Christian Ram is taunting me. He said, well, you know, it's not a real audio. The man said it was the Russians that faked it. You know, these guys, it's like what they did. I mean, all they're doing is they're making it up as they go along. Right? The no confidence vote in Parliament. They know that they lost that no confidence vote. The night they lost the no confidence vote, they conceded. And then Nigel came up with this thing about the numbers. And then they went through all kind of gymnastics. All kind of mathematical gymnastics to say that 33 was not higher than 32. That you needed 34 and you needed to do a half and you needed to round up. Like, you listen to Moses Nagamoto describe this thing, it was hilarious. And the Caribbean Court of Justice, it had to go all the way to the Caribbean Court of Justice. And the Caribbean Court of Justice, the judges were beside themselves. The judges were beside themselves with the hilarity of the situation. You know, and so it is with this case here now. We have a case where subsection 177(4) of the Constitution is quite clear. Right? It's quite clear that you have to have a president. You have to have a president declared and sworn in before this legislation, before the Constitution, before the exclusive jurisdiction of the Court of Appeal is invoked. And the Court of Appeal doesn't get to go. The Court of Appeal doesn't get to use any other tools of statutory interpretation. So you don't get to do things retrospectively. You know, so you don't get to take an order. You don't get to take an order granted by the commission that was gazetted in 2020 as a tool to interpret the Constitution and what Section 177 subsection 4 meant. Right? It meant as it said explicitly. And you have two judges of the Court of Appeal who fell in error by going along with the narrative that was put forth. And so you listen to the probing questions. All the judges had probing questions on that case. And so what you're gonna have is another decision. You're gonna have another decision from the Caribbean Court of Justice that makes Guyana look bad. Right? You're gonna have another decision from the Caribbean Court of Justice that makes us look really, really bad, because you have a political party in power that decides, as Dominic Gaskin says, they're not leaving. That's not good for us. I mean, in the last 5 years, we had Zulfikar Mustafa versus Guyana, where the Caribbean Court of Justice found that the chair of the Guyana Elections Commission, Mr. Patterson, who was a former judge, was not properly appointed. We had to go all the way to the Caribbean Court of Justice for them to tell us that the GCOM chairperson was not properly appointed, and that the president had to meaningfully consult with the leader of the opposition, and he had to go from the list submitted by the leader of the opposition. Right? And that's how we had Claudette Singh appointed as GCOM, the chairperson of GCOM. Otherwise Patterson would have still been there. And then you had Compton Reed versus the Speaker of the National Assembly. And Compton Reed versus the Speaker of the National Assembly basically affirmed, right, that Sharon Das' vote was a vote that was validly cast. Well, Compton Reed started the case, but by the time it reached to the Caribbean Court of Justice, it had a different name. It was Ram versus Speaker of the National Assembly, because my friend Christopher Ram, who is a lawyer as well, he took the appeal forward. Because Compton Reed won in the Court of Appeal by a split decision. So Compton Reed wasn't going to take that to the CCJ. Mr. Ram took it to the CCJ and won. Then you had Holidar. You had Holidar. Christopher Ram is a good friend. Christopher Ram is a good friend of mine. And sometimes me and Christopher Ram knock heads like nobody's business. Christopher Ram and I sat on 3 different commissions of inquiry. We sat on the Walter Rodney Commission of Inquiry. We sat on the Commission of Inquiry into the assassination plot against the president. And we sat on a 3rd Commission of Inquiry. Which was the 3rd inquiry? 1, 2. I forgot the other inquiry that me and Ram sat on. But me and Christopher Ram used to hang out. Almost every Friday night. We used to hang out in Buxton. People don't know that. Me and Christopher Ram used to go by a guy named Haslin Paris. We used to hang out there. We used to drink beers and chat into the wee hours of the morning. 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning, me and Christopher Ram driving all the way down into the back dam of Buxton. And that was because me and Christopher Ram took ownership of Guyana. We did not fear Buxton. We felt Buxton was our home. And so we had no fear of going down into Buxton back dam at 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning. Chris is my friend. Anyway, then we had Holodar versus Guyana. Right? And in the Holodar case, it established that Mingo, when Mingo made the declaration, he didn't accord procedural fairness because he did not use the SOPs. Right? Then we had Ulita Moore versus GCOM again. Ulita Moore dealt with the agreement between David Granger and Bar Jaggio. And that was a prelude to the recount. The recount is over. We got Davis versus Jacob now. And I've already told y'all what my prediction is. So, I mean, within the last 4 years, the litigation that flowed from our election has been blistering. Right, a lot of trees has been cut down to produce the paper. A lot of legal minds have been involved, and I mean, regardless of the legal fights, the jurisprudence is becoming rich, and there'll be books written about all these jurisprudence that recently emerged, and the elections. But we also have to focus. We also have to focus on whether what is happening is serving Guyana well. Whether, you know, all this litigation that's happening is to our benefit, right? You know, so, you know, for Davis versus GCOM, there's normally a 7-member bench, and because there was a perceived conflict with Justice Anderson and Burgess were not sitting, and a 5-member bench sat. Right, so you had the president of the court, Justice Saunders, Justice Witt, Justice Barrows, Justice Rasnath Lee, and Justice Peter Jamadar. So you have a 5-member diverse bench that sat to hear the appeal. And like I said, Justice Jamadar is a constitutional scholar. Justice Jamadar has set significant precedents in Trinidad and Tobago in terms of how he deals with the law, how he interprets the law. He was one of the leading constitutional scholars in Trinidad in terms of his appeal judgments. And so Justice Jamadar, it will be interesting to read what Justice Jamadar has to say in this case. But what you know is that there's a diverse bench. There's a diverse bench that sat to hear this case. You have a diverse bench in terms of race. You have a diverse bench in terms of countries of origin. You have a diverse bench in terms of jurisprudential heft. You have a diverse bench in terms of their own life experiences. So it will be interesting to see how this bench rules on the recent challenge that's before it. Will the private case filed against Lowenfield legally affect his ability to function as CEO, causing further delays? No, because he's not convicted of anything, right? A charge is not a conviction, right? So the charges doesn't affect him. What would have affected him is if he was suspended. If he was suspended as a CEO of GCOM, then there's Roxanne Myers or persons below her. who could perform his functions. I don't think that the charges against Mr. Lowenfield would affect his work. He's got charges of misfeasance in public office. Right? That's a criminal trial is a totally different ball game from his administrative responsibilities with GCOM. If they use that, if somebody tried to use that to say that he can't perform the directions of the commission has options in its legislation to get its work done. The commission cannot have Lowenfield thwart its work and thwart the will of the people. I mean, the fact that Lowenfield attempted to disenfranchise 115,000 Guyanese voters. Right? Lowenfield tried to disenfranchise 115,000 Guyanese voters. I mean, the fact that he did that, you know, he has to account for it. He's not allowed to get away with that. You know, he's not allowed to get away with that. So, you know, the fact that he did that, he will have to account for it. And whether it's in criminal court or before a commission of inquiry, that's what it is. I mean, I don't know why the APNU AFC are afraid of an Ali presidency. You know, just like how David Granger had 5 years to prove himself and come back to the electorate, it's the same thing is going to happen with Dr. Orphan Ali. He will have 5 years. He will have 5 years to show the Guyanese people that they should give him another 5 years, or they should kick him out. You know, and his stewardship will come into play 5 years after the election. So he'll have to go back to the people for another mandate. So if he doesn't do the things that he said he would do in the People's Progressive Party's manifesto, then, you know, the people have options, whether it's for the small parties or a larger political party, whatever that party will be in its constituted form in 2025. You know, so I don't think that Guyana has anything to fear with an Ali presidency. I mean, you had a brigadier general who continues to be president until the next president is sworn in. And you have a brigadier general who will be the prime minister. Right? So Ali will have a brigadier general, Mark Phillips, who will be the prime minister. I mean, and I expect that this cabinet will be diverse in terms of gender, in terms of religion, in terms of racial composition, in terms of experience, life experience, and professional experience. I expect that he will have a diverse cabinet, and it's a young president. He just turned 40, so I expect that he will be up and about, and he will be integrally involved in the economic affairs of the country, because he has an economic background. So, you know, we shouldn't delay the inevitable. Why are you delaying the inevitable? You know, and this, the delay only created more problems in Guyana. In Guyana right now, the racism the racism in Guyana has intensified. There's more racism now. There's more racism now than ever. You know, and it's like no hold bars racism. My friend from Dominica say hi, Tiani Bianson. Tiani, did you realize that today make 8 years since we're called to the Trinidad bar? Today's our 8-year anniversary, so congrats. Anyway, the racism in Guyana between mostly East Indians and blacks have intensified. There's much more racism now. A lot of people are getting death threats. Even I have received death threats. People are calling me all kind of names. Fake news, all kind of fake news are going on right now. All right, right. Somebody asked me about Ali's 19 charges. That's a good question. Yes, Ali has 19 charges against him. But this is what my position has always been with Orphan Ali charges and Nandalal charges. The charges against Mohabir and Nandalal were totally contrived charges. Right? The law books that Mohabir and Nandalal had were in the normal course of his duties. And I've addressed that before. In the same way like how I have subscriptions. So I get the Ontario reports. I get the immigration law reporters. I get the Dominion law reports. Right? If I get appointed as a judge, or I get appointed to the Human Rights Tribunal or the Immigration and Refugee Board, my subscription follows me. But my employer now has to pay my Law Society fees and my subscriptions. Right? So I still receive my literature subscriptions, my law book subscriptions, but they come to my new employer. They come to my workplace at the Immigration and Refugee Board. They wouldn't come to my office here. And it's the same thing that applies with Nandalal's situation, where Nandalal had those law books, and it was part of the agreement when he became Attorney General. Right? So let's talk about Ali's 19 charges. Ali was the Minister of Housing. Right? And the PPP defended that. My role is not to defend Ali. The PPP defended Ali on that, and the matter is before the court. But you charge Ali for the house lots given in Prattville that people paid for. They may have paid a discount price. They may not have paid market value. But in all the housing lots, as far as I understand it in Guyana, no one is paying market value, regardless of where they fall on the scale from the poorest to the wealthiest. All the housing lots for government property are subsidized or sold at a reduced rate. So the charges against Ali isn't going to go anywhere, in the same way that the fraud charges against Jennifer Westford didn't go anywhere, or the charges against Carvel Duncan didn't go anywhere. I mean those 19 charges against Ali are politically motivated charges, in the same way as in some countries they have those politically motivated charges. And when I was on the Immigration and Refugee Board of Canada, where I worked for 5 years, we dealt with cases of people fleeing political persecution to Canada. Right? They fled to Canada because of political persecution, and some of the reasons why they fled to Canada because of politically motivated, trumped up charges. So I have no doubt that the charges against Nandalal and the charges against Ali are going to get nowhere. Right? I mean the PPP can do the same thing when they get into power, right? All the house lots that were given away, all the even the recent ones that were even the recent gazetted orders from Jordan during the period of interregnum where the government is in caretaker mode. They can do likewise. They can bring charges. But where does it take us? Right? Where does it take us? What you must know right now is that Ali doesn't have any convictions. He has no convictions. All that they are criminal charges. And criminal charges are not an impediment to him assuming the presidency. Especially when the criminal charges are, to be quite frank, politically motivated and has no prospect of conviction. There's no reasonable prospect that Ali will be convicted. There's no reasonable prospect that Nandlal will be convicted. I mean, I posted a picture on my Facebook page with Nandlal and Basil Williams. Nandlal and Basil Williams have a better relationship than Basil Williams have with Joe Harmon. Right? Basil Williams can joke around with Nandlal, and I've seen that. Basil Williams can clap Nandlal on the shoulder, and Nandlal is cool with Basil Williams. Those guys are cool with each other. Those charges are simply politically motivated. Basil know that those charges aren't going to go anywhere. If those charges would have gone anywhere, they had 5 years for those charges to go somewhere. You know, so let's give Orphan-Ali a break. Let's see how he steers the ship of state for the next 5 years. I mean, the PNC and their supporters can work, because that's what Barrett Jagyo did. Barrett Jagyo didn't sat on his laurels for 5 years while they were in opposition. He was all over the place, not only trying to bring back the PPP disaffected members into their party fold, but they also managed to get people who were supportive of the PNC, who were supportive of the APNU, who were supportive of the AFC, to become PPP supporters. So a lot of young African Canadians, sorry, not African Canadians, Afro-Guyanese, became supporters of the People's Progressive Party during the past 5 years. I mean, during the past 5 years, I mean, the APNU AFC did a lot of stuff that caused them to lose supporters. I mean, when they had the first prison fire, where the prison, where the Capital Block A got burnt and 18 people lost their lives and numerous people were injured, they had a chance to compensate the victims. Right? They had a chance to tear down all those old wooden buildings and build a new prison, which is what I had advocated when I was a lawyer for the Joint Services, right? They appointed me as lawyer for the Joint Services, right? And I said these old buildings are relics that should be torn down. They have no place in a modern society. Did you think they listened? Nope, they didn't listen. And 1 year later, all those wooden buildings got burnt down, plus the Prison Sports Club. And my friend and colleague Wayne Wickham lost his life. Wayne lost his life, and I don't even know if they give him any his family any compensation. You know, I don't even know whether they give them any compensation. Every few months you see his mother on Facebook crying and mourning the loss of her son. And I feel bad for Miss Wickham on the loss of her son. But had they torn down those wooden buildings, had they followed the recommendations of the Commission of Inquiry, that wouldn't have happened. You have all the market vendors that were removed. All those market vendors that were removed and weren't properly taken care of. You have all this sort of stuff cause people to stay away. They're not going to vote for you if when they voted for you, you didn't do right by them, right? You have the 5 people that were slaughtered on the seawall by the police. The PNC and the APNU AFC talk about extrajudicial killings during the PPP era by the police. But extrajudicial killings didn't stop when the APNU AFC got into power. You got those 5 people that were killed on the seawall. You got those 2 people that were killed, those 2 young people who were killed in the churchyard in Campbellville. And I can go through the plethora of cases where police excesses occurred and people were killed without due process of the law. So, it's not only during the PPP time extrajudicial killings took place. During the PNC, APNU, AFC administration, such killings also took place. And, y'all didn't have commissions of inquiries into those killings, nor did y'all have commissions of inquiries into the 400 people that y'all said were killed at the behest of the PPP. I don't think they were killed at the behest of the PPP. The police is an arm of the state, but the police doesn't get controlled by a political party. So if the police commit extrajudicial killings, we have the Coroner's Act, where coroner's inquest should be held. You should have inquests being held into those killings. When Yuri Varswick was on the run, Yuri Varswick should have been brought in and faced the courts for the killing of Wade Wickham. The police shouldn't have murdered him. He was murdered as well. Right, that was an extrajudicial killing in 2017. So there were extrajudicial killings during the Granger administration too that has gone unaddressed. So all that is to say is that these fears that y'all are perpetrating, intelligent people are not going to buy them. Intelligent people have to give the new government a chance and let them perform. And I know that if the government wants to stay in power and maintain the confidence of the people, they will do right by the people. And so let us see what happens on Wednesday with the Caribbean Court of Justice. Let's see what the judges' rulings are, and let's hope that the rulings will not only be respected by words but in action. Guyanese people have been waiting for too long for their new government to be in place. This is a small country. This is not a rich country. Waiting for 4 months for a government to be in place is totally unsatisfactory. It might be satisfactory to the 1%, but for the 99%, it's not satisfactory. This election impasse has to be brought to an end. The PPP has won. Let them assume the mantle of power. The APNU AFC, controlled by the PNC, will not be allowed to rule Guyana by fiat. You will not be allowed to have a coup. You will not be allowed to have that. This is 2020. It's not going to happen. Reasonably intelligent people are not going to have you do that. You're not going to allow Guyana to get back to the stage where we had long lines for rice, where we had long lines for flour, where we had long lines for gas, where we had long lines for cooking oil because of sanctions. It's not going to happen. We are not going to allow it to happen. You know, we're not going to allow your thirst for power to have sanctions being brought upon Guyana to make poor people suffer. You've lost the elections. Exit, and exit gracefully. The police and the army are not going to prop you up. Right? The police and the army are not going to prop you up. The police and the army are constitutionally mandated bodies, and they've got to abide by the Constitution. So that if there's a declaration that the PPP won by 15,000 votes, and Dr. Orfanali is the new commander-in-chief. That's the man that you gotta salute. Of course, they're gonna have to teach him not to slow march and all that sort of stuff when he's doing his inspection. But that's gonna be a new commander-in-chief. You're gonna have a new defense board, and you're gonna have a new commander-in-chief. You're gonna have to salute him. You're gonna have to give him all the compliments that you give to David Granger. Right, and the good thing about Ali is he's got a brigadier general with him, right, Mark Phillips, who is going to assist him in terms of dealing with the sort of courtesies with the military and the joint services. So, fear not. Let not your heart be troubled. You know? Somebody wrote to me, over the weekend the police seized over 50 motorcycles even though the owners provided supporting documents. Are they allowed to do that by law? Well, let me tell you this. The police, if the police seize 50 vehicles, right? If the police seize 50 vehicles, I don't know why the police seized the vehicles. I don't know whether or not the police provided receipts for the motorcycles that they seized. But there are lawyers in Guyana. There are hundreds of lawyers, thousands of lawyers in Guyana. I'm sure that there are lawyers in Guyana who can provide legal advice to the persons whose motorcycles were seized. And if their cycles were seized for reasons that are contrary to law, the court can order those cycles to be returned to the people. And sometimes the court doesn't even have to be involved. A letter could be written by a lawyer to the police from the respective divisions, and the police will act. But if the police seize the vehicles and there are no lawful reasons for them to keep those vehicles impounded, then there's recourse to the courts. And there are enough lawyers in Guyana that persons can go to. I'm not going to give an opinion. I'm all the way in Canada. I'm all the way in Toronto right now, so I can't do anything about it. So they'll have to seek advice from a lawyer in Guyana as to what their rights and what their remedies are. But I just wanted to come online and chat because, you know, I heard it's getting tense in Guyana, and I just want to say that there's no reason for it to be tense. I mean, regardless of who rules Guyana, whether it's the PPP or the PNC, regardless of which political party rules Guyana, what you must know is that they have to rule for all Guyanese, right? They have to rule for all Guyanese. And so I just want to say, have no fear. Have no fear of Comrade Orfanali. Have no fear. Let's see. Let's give him a chance. Let's see what he does for the next 5 years. You know, it doesn't matter. The PNC are not going to allow to stay in power if they lost this election. I mean, all the sort of shenanigans that they're doing is not going to keep them in power. They've lost the election, and they'll have to they'll have to leave. If they stay in power, it doesn't help them. I mean, they had a better chance. They had a better chance of winning the election when Sharon Das voted yes in the no confidence motion. Because the PPP didn't even have a leadership. They didn't even have their leadership. They didn't even have their leadership campaign or vote yet. They didn't even have a new party leader yet. Ali was confirmed as a party leader by the Central Executive Committee way after that no confidence vote. So, I mean, if they had called the elections within the 3 months, people that were mad at Sharon Das might have been sympathetic, but they allowed the thing to run out for 18 months. You allow yourself to sit in power for 18 months, and it's like short-term gain, long-term pain. You got to look far ahead rather than look at tomorrow. You know, you had to project. You had to project further afield. They give the PPP a lot of time to campaign, and while they were dealing with court matters and other stuff, the PPP was working the fields, and you saw it. When you go on Nigel Darrenlow's page, Nigel Darrenlow was posting the pictures of the PPP all over the country in all of the regions, and they've captured 6 of 10 regions. So they're controlling 6 of 10 regions. The APNU AFC are controlling 4, which means that the PPP will be controlling the central government plus the majority of the regions, right? I mean, y'all had 5 years. Y'all blew it. Y'all blew it, and not only did y'all blew it, but y'all coming up with all kind of misinformation, and y'all trying to get intelligent people like me, people that are fair-minded, y'all trying to poison my mind, and I'm not allowing y'all to do it. Y'all not gonna do it. Y'all not gonna do it. I'm not allowing my mind to be poisoned by racism. I'm not allowing my mind to be poisoned by fake news. I'm not allowing my mind to be poisoned by name calling. I'm not allowing my mind to be poisoned by death threats or any form of threats. You know, we all have one life to live. And, you know, we all have one life to live, and we have to live our lives with dignity. We have to live our lives with integrity. You know, a famous law professor wrote a book, and I'll show you the book. It's in my library. This book, this is a book on ethics written by a law professor named Derek Bell. It says ethical ambition, living a life of meaning and worth, right? You know, this book was written by Derek Bell. And these are books that I read that give me wisdom. You know, I make sure that I live my life governed by ethics. I prefer to be abandoned by friends and family. I prefer to be abandoned by friends and family and standing for principles of truth, standing for principles of justice, standing for principles of fairness. You think it's easy living in North America? I'm a human rights lawyer in North America. I'm a black man with dreadlocks. who has reached almost the pinnacle of my career in North America, a society that's systemically racist. And that's because the judges know and lawyers know that when Selwyn Pieters says something, his word is bond. So I wouldn't mislead the court. I don't lie to the court. I don't try to spin a narrative that isn't reality. I don't do any of that. And so in the 20 years that I've been in the legal field, 5 years at the Immigration and Refugee Board and 15 years in private practice, I'm able to practice law fearlessly because I stand up for principles, and the principles are fairness, justice, equality. I appreciate that some people can't handle that. You know, even some of my family members are mad with me. They're mad with me because they want me to join a narrative that's false. Right? And I'm not prepared to do that. I'm not prepared to see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. I speak out for what's right. I speak out for what's right. And this is what Che Guevara said. He said, we cannot be sure of having something to live for unless we're willing to die for it. That's what Ernest Che Guevara says. We cannot be sure of having something to live for unless we're willing to die for it. I'm prepared to die for my dignity. I'm prepared to die for my self-worth. I'm prepared to die for my autonomy. I am not going to sell myself to the devil. I'm not going to be someone who I'm not. Right? I'm going to speak truth to power, regardless of where the truth takes me. And that's what I did in this election when I came as an observer. You know, nobody wants a Guyana. Nobody wants a Guyana where there's institutional legacies of theft, where there's abuse of power, where there's electoral fraud or electoral theft, where there's torture, where there are extrajudicial killings. Nobody wants that. We want our governments to rule in accordance with the constitutions and in accordance with the various laws. Right? Right now, we're dealing with situations of abuse of power, and we're dealing with situations where there are allegations of electoral frauds and electoral theft. Right? Right? I mean, the PPP is asserting that the APNU, AFC has lost the elections, and they're trying to hold on to power by any means necessary. The ends doesn't justify the means. You've lost the elections, you leave, you exit gracefully, you facilitate a peaceful transition of power, and you come back stronger and better in 5 years. But if you continue the shenanigans of lies, if you continue to lie to people, if you continue to mislead people, nobody, no politician should have a greed for power. No one should have a greed for power, especially in a democratic society. You have a mandate, you serve your mandate, the people decide that someone else should take over, You leave and let the new governors or governess take over. You come back stronger, or come back with a different team to win. Right? But don't try to pull the wool over people's eyes. I mean I appreciate that, like I said, I appreciate that you may not like that the PPP won this election, but you know what? You're going to have to work hard. You're going to have to work hard and come back better. Come back better in 5 years. That's what it is. You know? Their abuse of power, yes. Ram says that their abuse of power under both major parties, the sad reality. Agreed. What you need at this point. The good thing about right now is you have a lot of small political parties. The small political parties are gaining a foothold, like the Citizen Initiative, like Lennox Schumann Party. You know, all those small parties are gaining a foothold. And by gaining a foothold, you know, those parties are going to be able to keep these large political parties in check. Hopefully, the Citizen Initiative and parties like that, they can hopefully those parties can keep working on the ground, and they can try to get the votes. The young Timothy Jonas has a bright future in Guyana. Timothy Jonas has a bright future as a politician. Hopefully within the next 5 years he's able to harness it effectively. And he can take the reins of power. I'd love to see Timothy Jonas lead Guyana in some way. Thought I'd stand up and give my feet a break, because I've been sitting. See my Guyana flag? It's 22 stories high. Proud Guyanese. But yeah, no, I agree that both political parties, but the PPP was humbled by their electoral loss in 2015 and by their minority status in 2011. So I think that when they come back into power, they understand that they can't take people's votes for granted, and that they have to they have to do right by the people. We will hold them accountable. Those of us that don't have party cards either for the APNU, AFC, PNC, or PPP, we will hold them accountable. So while I believe that Ali should get his rightful place as president, given that his party has won not only the majority in the National Assembly, but the majority votes to be president, he will be held accountable. And if there are any excesses by the PPP, they'll be called out. So I thought I'd do this live and say my piece. I don't speak without choosing my words carefully, and that's why I did a lot of videos while I was in Guyana of what was taking place at GCOM headquarters, because I knew that there would have been people, the fake news and the political apologists and so on, that would jump to attack, and that's why I did videos. And people are free to check all the public videos on my Facebook page for the time that I was in Guyana. I call it as I see it. A lot of people can't call it as they see it, but it allows me to sleep well when I call it as I see it. Even as a lawyer with clients, I give my clients my opinion. When my clients ask me for an opinion, I don't tell them what they want to hear. I tell them how I see it based on the facts and the law. And I tell them, look, you have the right to a second opinion. If you don't like my opinion, you can hire another lawyer and get a second opinion. Or you can fire me and get somebody else. But I'm not going to tell you what you need to hear just because you're a client. I'm going to tell you what it is so that you can conduct your affairs accordingly. And that was the same thing I did when I was in Guyana during the elections. I stated things as they were, as I saw it, as I heard it. I didn't try to cover up anything. It would make no sense trying to cover up anything. Who benefits? No one benefits. Democracy doesn't benefit. So that's my and for those who are calling me a foreigner, I'm no foreigner. I'm a Guyanese. I may not have been born in Guyana, but my father is a Guyanese. My mother is Guyanese. They were born there. My grandmothers, my grandfathers, my ancestors that were brought from Africa, all settled in Guyana. And so I have as much rights to comment on Guyana's situation as any other Guyanese. And the fact that I'm an attorney at law in Guyana even makes it more responsible or incumbent on my part to comment when I see an unfairness taking place. Let's get this election wrapped up. Let's get a new government sworn in, and let's build Guyana. Let's cooperate for Guyana. Let's make Guyana a wonderful place where we all want to live. I mean, President Granger is going to come on to Ben's Cup tonight. Tune in to President Granger tonight. Hear what he has to say. He may have beautiful things to say. Y'all listen to him. I thought y'all would love the background. It's now 7:30 in Toronto and it's beautiful outside. So I deliberately wanted y'all to see the background, how beautiful the view is from my office. So it's a little show off. It's a little show offish on my part that I showed you all the background, but the good thing about the elections, the good thing about the conversations is let's keep the conversations going. Right? Let's keep the conversations about Guyana going. Let's not give up on Guyana because we're overseas based Guyanese. Guyana is our home too. It's our home too, and so let's keep these conversations going. Daryl Alexis asks, how come you lately found your rights? Quite interesting. I'm not sure who Daryl Alexis is talking to. He couldn't be talking to me. I mean, sometimes people speak without even researching the people who they're talking about. Daryl Alexis, forget. Yes, it's beautiful outside, Natasha. It's beautiful. Daryl Alexis forgot that I was one of the lawyers that represented the 3 persons who were shot in 2012 up in Linden. Don't forget that. I was also I was the lawyer that the PNC called to represent their interests at the Commission of Inquiry into Walter Rodney's death. You know, they didn't call James Bond, they didn't call Royce Ford, they didn't call any of them. They asked me to make the representations on behalf of the state. And I did it because I felt that they were, you know, they were entitled to be represented, they were entitled to good counsel, they were entitled to great advocacy. The interesting thing now is Keith Scotland, who was Donald Rodney's lawyer. He is representing the PNC side now. You know, he has been in the Ulita Moore matter, and he is in the other matter with what's her name, Eslyn David, right? So there has been a change, there has been a shift, right? When you talk about rights, anybody that wants to talk about rights should do their research on Selwyn Pieters. Selwyn Pieters has been a rights activist since he was 8 years old. Right? I've been fighting for people's rights since I was 8 years old. You know? So I'm not a Johnny come lately when you talk about people's rights. And Mr. Ram says that's the primary job of the electorate to hold the government accountable. But Guyanese politics is too tribal. It's true, Guyanese politics is really tribal, and that's what make me part ways kind in some ways with the APNU AFC. Because the APNU AFC, when they were in opposition, they were criticizing the Guyana Chronicle. They were criticizing the Guyana Chronicle and how the Guyana Chronicle was being abused by the People's Progressive Party through Sean Samaru, especially. And when the APNU AFC got into power, they've used the Chronicle and abused the Chronicle in similar ways. And I wrote to David Granger. I wrote to David Granger telling him, I said, Granger, the same thing that you criticized when you were in opposition is the same thing that's happening right now. Right? I actually wrote to him. Telling him that and telling him how disgusted. Telling him how disgusted I was with the Chronicle being misused in the manner in which it was. So you're right. We have to hold the governments accountable, whether it's APNU, AFC, or PPP. They all have to be held accountable. Anyway, I think that David Granger's coming on in 20 minutes, 15 minutes. So let me take my leave from this live. And I thank everyone that tuned into this live. I hope that you found it beneficial. I hope that I responded to some of the questions that were asked of me. Regardless of who becomes our president after the CCJ rules, we should try to support the leader, support our new president, and hold them accountable. And that's what I have to say for now. Goodbye, everyone.